Hey guys, it's Ryan from Grow, Kill, and Adapt on Refuge Radio. Today I have with me my buddy and my coworker, Chal Port. Chal, thanks for being here with us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Hey, why don't you give us a little dissection, now that you're on the team, like walk us through a little bit of your background and how you ended up here and, give us your story.
Sure. So I just graduated from Messiah College in May. I majored in digital media with a concentration in mobile app and game design. So probably don't get to see too much of that, and that's because around my junior year I decided I didn't necessarily want to make games anymore because graphic design seemed to be something I was super interested in. I really enjoyed doing. I was pretty good at too, so I decided to take that route. It was also around that time that I decided to add a congregational ministry minor, kind of because I had an interest in how ministries work, how pastors learn to do what they do, and just kind of to get into all that. And so around May of my senior year, there was a career fair, and Ryan and another member of the Refuge leadership team came to the career fair, and they were talking to some students. And as I walked by, I heard that it was a youth ministry group based out of Altoona. Being from Huntingdon, that immediately piqued my interest, so went and chatted with them, gave them my resume. They gave me some free swag, and Brian gave me his email. After a few email correspondences and online interview, I was hired as an intern, and that led to me now being the assistant director of the Tyrone campus.
Yeah, free swag is a big deal, especially finding interns. And
Chow
didn't. Can I share this part?
Yeah, you
All right. So here's the deal. When Chow interviewed with me online, he almost got fired from his on-campus job because he called off. He wasn't feeling well. Decided that he was going to interview anyways. Didn't want to reschedule, and somebody caught you, right?
Yep.
And they tried to report you, and I was like, wow, that could be the end of this story.
Yep. My stand-in, the person who came in to work for me that day, caught me interviewing for that position. So that it wasn't great, but after some conversations, we sorted things out, and everything was okay.
Yeah, you're a senior. Who cares?
Right, exactly.
Okay. So let me walk you through this. One of the things we're going to talk about today is your first day on the job. All right. And the idea is helping younger men and women in ministry understand kind of the steps in the process. Yeah. A lot of times it can be overwhelming when you get into those places. And as a younger guy in ministry, what do you think is a big takeaway from watching the leadership that you've seen at Refuge? But also the cool part about what we get to do here is that you get to see multiple churches' leaderships too. Mm-hmm. So what's a takeaway that you come from that you see working with Refuge?
Yeah, so definitely my biggest takeaway so far has been watching everyone and seeing how they interact with people and seeing that giving genuine authenticity, so not trying to be someone you're not, and just loving other people from where you are. That's what people really want, especially the teens that we work with. They need people who are just going to be themselves and love them for who they are. So not doing that is a huge disservice. So the biggest takeaway I've seen is to just be yourself and love everyone as best as you can, because that's really what ministry is all about.
That's good, man. I appreciate that. There's so often we talk about the authentic relationship, and I'm glad that that's translated into what our leaders show and really what we're all about attached to that. Let me ask you this. We had you come in, I think it was June that you started working with us, right? You started as an intern, a ministry intern, and now, as we've gotten out of the summertime, you're transitioning into the assistant campus director of one of our other sites, basically like an assistant youth pastor role at our Tyrone campus, correct?
Yes.
What are some of the things that surprised you, maybe walking through your internship to now getting into a place of higher level leadership?
Right. So growing up, really the only experiences I had with like youth groups and youth ministry was a bunch of church kids getting together and learning about Jesus and playing games together, which is amazing and great. But coming to Refuge, it's like, these aren't all church kids. These are kids from all different walks of life that still all need the love of Jesus, and that's what we still give them. So like the biggest surprise was that, wow, some of these kids have never experienced Jesus, have never come to a church service or been exposed to anything like this, and here they are, which was super cool.
Yeah. So the idea of this podcast is not just for me to drill questions at you. I'd like for you to have some opportunities to ask me questions as the old guy, right? So
Right.
Micah and I talked about this before. We don't want to just write things that us old guys think are cool. We want to be able to get into the place of hearing what others have to ask us and maybe kind of dissecting those things. So this is your chance to open up. Maybe we'll start this dialogue back and forth here.
Okay, so when someone new like me comes in for the first time, starts working for you as an intern, what are some things you have to keep an eye on? What are some things you got to watch out for?
Yeah, it's a really interesting place to sit. I wish I could explain it to you, that you have gone from somebody that might feel underqualified to the place of, well, maybe then I'm underqualified to lead others that need this next role too. And so over time, what some of the things that I check and make sure of while we're walking through there is, one, are we using them in their giftings, right? So when you came in, we had you come in as a campus director, and I know that there's some passion attached to the graphic design piece, and I know that there was some just back end things that you were really interested in. And for me, it was analyzing and seeing what you were successful in and what you felt comfortable with, and letting you grow into that position instead of saying, this is what I need and I have to push you into this mold. Maybe that's not the same for everybody, but for me, that has been more successful in leading my volunteers and leading paid interns and leading unpaid interns, new staff members, whatever it might be, is looking at where your gifts are first. And I talk about vocation a lot, your gifts, talents, passions, and abilities aligning for God's glory. And trying to find that place for you guys, so that way when the new person comes in, they have ownership instead of just using the program. They have an ownership aspect of that. And one of the things that I see a lot while I'm on all of these Youth Pastor Central and all these other forums where people talk about, hey, this is my new role. This is my first position. This is where I'm going. A lot of people feel underqualified or unqualified to be able to start working with teenagers. What would you recommend as the new guy to kind of like give you a foundation?
Right. I mean, to be honest, any job that you start, you're going to feel underqualified. That's just kind of, when you step into a new position, you're not going to feel like you have everything that it takes. So like for me, it was just diving in, embracing the fact that, yeah, I am new. I don't know everything that I'm doing, but just giving it your all anyway, and not being too afraid to make a mistake, to try. That was the biggest thing for me, and to ask lots of questions, just because if you don't ask questions, you're not going to learn anything new. So it's just very important to be okay with being the new guy. Be okay with not feeling completely qualified at first, because everyone's been there.
Yeah. I think asking questions, like if you're in my office, you hear them all the time, and we all kind of share an office. So we get this place of like, hey, what are you doing? What are we working on? What have we, and it's not that we're in this place of trying to bombard each other, but it's really a growth aspect of what is happening so that I can help you move forward and make sure that I'm in alignment with whatever your vision is for what's happening next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did it look like when you started ministry? So we're talking about like my beginning, which was just a couple months ago. How about you?
Yeah. Really interesting. I was 23. I was working at a sales job. Was not good at it. Let's just put it that way. I kind of found that God didn't want me to be in that place, and was ready to step out into the next journey, and ran into a youth center, a Christian-based youth center up in Lancaster County. Asked them if I could come and volunteer, and I would leave my sales job in my suit and tie and go and throw dodgeballs at kids. And it was so fun for me to just kind of engage the community differently. I had seen youth groups, I'd seen outreach ministries, I had seen all these other things, but this was a different group of kids. They were tough, man. They were tough kids, and a lot of it was trial by fire. But I talked about this once before. I think that there was a class that I took in Messiah that really helped shape where I was going later on in my life, and it was created and called for community. It was something that I definitely did not like when I was there. Was totally against it, kind of pushed against it, was not interested in it at all. But then when I walked into that season, understanding and celebrating other people's lives, that really helped me understand the kingdom focus. And even though I had trial by fire, one of the greatest things that I had was somebody that was walking hand in hand with me, a mentor that had already been there for 13 years that was willing to help step me into the next roles. So that was really big for me. That's what ministry looked like. It was, again, messy and crazy. And sometimes it was nights where I'd get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning about bad things, and other times where it was just super enjoyable. And what I found over the season is through the highs and lows of ministry, that consistency of having somebody that helped me walk through that first season is why I'm still here. So, we do use this model quite a bit in the office: grow, kill, and adapt, right? And that's why we have the name of this at Refuge. We kind of analyze everything at those 3 places. So I'm going to quickly dissect this for you, and then I'm going to ask you a question afterwards. Okay. So growing, the idea is that we started a program, or we saw a need, and we decided that we needed to focus our attention on that need. And so in my next podcast, we'll talk a little bit about our SLPs, our student life programming, and how that started some of our Grow, Kill, and Adapt series. But when we start it, there's always a season where you have to go back and monitor it and see how well it's going. And you can choose 3 things. You can choose to grow it, you can choose to kill it, or you can choose to adapt it. And so in that model, it's very simple. It's just reflecting on what we've already done, seeing how well it went, and whether or not it's worth doing again. A lot of times we do things in youth culture that aren't worth doing, or we've just always done it that way, and we're not as fluid as we should be, or organic in the way that we create these things. And so that's why for us, that's a model that we go back and pay attention to. And as you walk into your first day, so we're walking into the first day of work. When you walk into a ministry, how do you take your own ideas or your own thoughts or your own, you want to implement your own ideas. Okay. Let's put it that way. Well, understanding that there's already been a foundation or a part of the ministry that's already been built before you. How do you come in and have those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is listening and asking questions. Like I said earlier, being attentive to the foundation that is already built there and learning about the foundation, because there's no way to build on a foundation if you're just going to come in and try to make everything brand new. Because if you try to you got to have the foundation to build on to be able to build it all. You can't just be like, nah, I'm going to go start building over to the side here and you guys can do whatever you want, because that's not going to work out. So yeah, just understanding the foundation and then finding places where, like, hey, maybe you didn't think about this piece, or there's this idea that I heard of this other place that could fit in to here well. So it's just trying not to be creative. Have ideas, but try to make them fit into the ideas and the foundation that's already there, rather than trying to kind of go rogue and just make your own things. So
when you go rogue, a lot of times people will leave. You'll lose volunteers. You'll lose kids. There's a good piece of looking and analyzing and planning beforehand, and then really in-depth prayer to decide where you're going to go in your ministry.
For sure.
So let me move on for the next one. It's your first day as a youth pastor. Let's say it's independent church outside of Refuge, first day as a youth pastor. What do you do?
Talk to the kids, pray with the kids, and just kind of open up that first connection point. Because you like I said, knowing the kids and showing them who you are authentically and getting to know them authentically is huge. Like, that's, I think, the biggest reason that I think Refuge has been as successful as it is because we are authentic and we get to know the teens that we're working with. And that's why they keep coming back. They keep coming back because, I mean, not just because of us, but we're authentic with them. We show them that we care about them and that we want them there. And then they experience the love of Jesus through us. And so that's what makes them want to keep coming back. So I think starting off getting to know your students is the biggest thing.
Yeah. They talk about this a lot. Relationship gives reason, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of building a relationship first and then giving them the reason why you're there. Actually, when we planted a new campus in Bellwood, one of our biggest focuses was to go with no agenda for 8 weeks and just spend time with the kids in the community.
Yeah.
And by doing that, they start asking why you're there. And they start, you've built a relationship, you're playing basketball with them, you're eating food, you're spending time with them. And then they start asking why you're there. And then through that, then I can start sharing the reason why I'm working in ministry, the reason why Refuge is even coming into Bellwood.
Yeah.
And it's been a really cool piece for me to watch it we're going on our second year right now, and being able to say, this is what we've been able to grow into because of the relationship first. So then we can give them the reason. So let me ask you this. Last thoughts about youth pastor. Okay. Brand new youth pastor. Any last thoughts about those that are struggling in stepping into their new role, or those that are excitable, or wherever else?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say find a mentor, at least one. Find someone who's been there, who's done that, who can help you with your problems, who can tell you that, like, hey, it's okay to feel like you're unqualified right now, or it's okay that you're feeling this way because everyone's been there. I've been through it. So like having Ryan and Micah, I think is definitely, they give me people who I can go to when I have questions, when I'm not necessarily feeling completely confident in what I'm doing or what I'm about to go do. So definitely, like, biggest thing, find a mentor, find people to surround yourself with that are really going to lift you up, build you up, and help you, and always be praying. That's huge.
So I think that my last thought would be about that 2-year curve, right? If you're in youth ministry, you understand that after 2 years that we lose a lot of young youth pastors here and there, and the reason why can be vast. Life stage changes, all these different reasons, but the burnout is a real thing. And so I would encourage you as a new youth pastor that you're in it for a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're not looking to go from 10 kids to 300 in one day. You're looking at how can I grow this and let God work through this ministry, because God has given this platform to me to help go fulfill the Great Commission. And it's not a sprint, So often we find so much opposition in that first 2 years because we try to change everything and we try to make our own ideas happen. Spend that time to pray. Spend a season just watching what's happening, and then recognize that the 2-year mark is usually because people feel like islands out there. They're no longer feeling included in, whether it's in their church ministry, they're not feeling included with their church family. They don't have a mentor to walk them through it. Like you had mentioned, find a mentor, put yourself into the ground with them. And even just the sounding boards of being able to see the advice from other youth pastors is really big. So I don't think that I can solve the 2-year issue, but I do know that the island feeling usually comes from being alone. And I don't think that God has created us to be that way. So in that case, try to find those that you can surround yourself to not just only pour into them, but them to pour into you, because it's necessary. You can't keep on giving out if you are not full either. All right, so I have a little segment that we want to do, and I think this is a really fun segment that I'm gonna shoot at every time that we do an episode. This is where we talk about, it's called Youth Builder, okay? This is where we talk about the coolest things that you've either personally built for ministry or you've seen built, because we know that part of this job is us being creative and us figuring out all the cool toys and making all your dreams become reality. And I'm gonna be honest, like, anytime that I can create a toy and keep it for my own, like, hands-on, it's a really big deal. So give me the coolest DIY toy or project that you've seen built.
Okay, so this one I gotta give to Ryan, actually. So Ryan, I think he noticed that the rules of cornhole, sometimes, which we play a lot of cornhole at Refuge, the rules of cornhole were sometimes too much for people, and like keeping tally of points and everything was just something that a lot of people don't do well, can't process well.
They can't count.
Yeah, basically they can't count. So what Ryan did was he made a game that's very similar. What did you call it again? It's
You don't want to know the name of it. It's not no, I'm just kidding. It's basically beanbag toss with little holes to fill over.
Mm-hmm. And so once you make one in, you just the people on the other side fill in the hole that you toss the beanbag into. So you don't have to count points. You don't have to keep track of how many points negate how many points and all of that. It's just once you get the beanbag in that hole, you cover it up and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Once you get all of them covered, you're good to go and you win. So it's super simple, super easy. And I thought that was really cool and a really good way of getting kids who maybe can't get involved with cornhole involved into a game that's very similar.
Yeah, it's almost like an old carnival game. It's very, very simple. Mm-hmm. And so that's the idea behind it, is that anybody can play. You can pull in any kid. The kid that's sitting over in the corner and not doing anything by themselves. This is an easy transition to say, hey, come on over here, be on my team. All you got to do is throw one bag. And if you miss, it doesn't matter. And there's not really that high of a point value. I know that cornhole is a great place to do that. But like you said, they can't count. Math is hard. So I just want to say thanks for checking us out today. We want to thank Park Home Furniture for stepping out today and giving us this great set. We appreciate all the donations that you've given us and making this place nice and cozy for us to be able to record our podcast. And be encouraged as you go forward this week and keep pursuing God. And remember to stay in your lane.